So, hi Hasid, and welcome. Thank you for participating.
And how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. So for the rest of you, this is Hasid Shangrajka from City Dynamics in the UK, who's willing to participate in this short video recording of sharing some best practices, some experiences that City Dynamics have done now that we're in a situation where we need to all work remotely and not sit together in our offices. Actually, City Dynamics, they had been a bit ahead of the curve, so it's going to be an interesting story. But first of all, Hasid, maybe you just want to share just a few liners on who City Dynamics is.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity. We're a Microsoft partner focusing in on Business Central and CRM customer engagement around sales and PSA. We're based in London. We've been going since 2002. We focus in on financial and professional services clients, and we focus in on SMB-sized clients as well.
All right, good. Thank you. A little bit of background there is always nice. So, Hasid, as far as I heard a little rumor about, you were actually ahead of the curve here with regards to working remotely. So you said, yes, finally we're ahead of the curve here. We did something before everybody else. So can you share a bit of light on what was that?
Yeah, sure. So we're based in London, and everybody comes in via public transport, and the sense of, well, how long before we catch it, or what do we need to do? And the thinking amongst us all really was, what do we do? How do we help this situation? So by switching to home working, we felt that we would help each other, because we're a small team. So being affected and being infected or being affected would be obviously damaging for us, for our clients, for our team, for their families. So the thinking was, we start working from home for everyone's benefit. The clients win because we can continue to work with them. Our team wins because they stay healthy. And if they are healthy, they don't spread it onto their families. And then obviously the consequence of those are quite severe in that regard. And then also as a whole, as a small bit to help the whole country, if we do our bit and everybody does their bit, and we can help to reduce that spread and the rate of that curve that everyone talks about, if we can, what we call the sombrero in the UK, if we can make that flatter, then obviously it doesn't affect the NHS or the health services as much. So it was our bit that we wanted to do. So we started working on this and thinking about it really at the start of last week, and thought we've got all our plans in place in terms of remote working, in terms of contingency, but let's make sure we test them first. So at the start of last week, we did a test where we shut the office and worked remotely. We didn't tell clients, we just did it to see how it would work. And the benefit of that is that we learned if there were any issues. The plan that we put together was able to function properly. And then we met again after that day and talked through what were the issues, how it works best. The thing that was really important was how do we work in terms of transferring calls? How do we work in terms of making sure that we can connect with each other when we're not there? When we're all in the office, it's very easy to look over your shoulder and see if they're there or not there. So we were just thinking about how these rules would work out. And so we used Teams for our phones, and it was really important that communication about what you're doing, where you're at, if you're not available, that we flag it in Teams, that your presence, your indications are all reflected. It's small things like this that really help with that scenario. And so in terms of technology, we'd already been moving into the cloud from really the early days. So we moved into Office 365 many years ago. We moved our CRM from on-premise to cloud soon after it came out. And we did the same thing with Business Central. As soon as the SaaS version was ready, we moved our on-premise ERP into Business Central Cloud. And really, when we moved Office last year, we also then moved our phone system into that as well. So we now use Teams for that piece as well. So really, everything we have is cloud-based. In that regard, there was never an issue in terms of technology. It was just an issue about people and process. How will it work? And we'd all worked remotely individually, but not as a whole company without anybody being in the office.
Exactly.
So my real concern was, how will it work if we're all not there?
Yeah.
And that's really the key one. So once you've made that move, and the main thing was we did it for a whole day. We did support and managed service, and also client delivery as well remotely. And so in that regard, it was very successful.
Yeah. And you actually did the test without telling the clients, right?
Yes.
So you did it as a test, or a secret test.
Yes, we did it. We didn't tell any clients. We just did it. We've not communicated to clients that we did do that. When we've been asked by clients what the contingencies are, we actually then have said, actually, last week we did this and we went and did it remotely to prove that it would work, that there were no issues, that we had a backup plan. If something went wrong, we knew how we'd all get into the office, or we'd do something to make sure that there was never an issue with a client in terms of our delivery to them, to meet our SLAs, just to meet our guarantees and our timings. So that was a key part. We didn't tell anybody that we did it. So, and the real success in that is that none of the clients really understood or really figured out that we were doing this remotely.
No.
So their sense of receipt of our delivery was just as it would have been had we all been sitting in our office.
Yeah.
And for me, that was the most important thing. That's what gave me the confidence to say, let's do this. And then and so on Friday we said, actually, now's the time to do it. We've done it, we've proven it. So we were literally a little ahead of the UK government saying, if you can do it, work from home. But we made that call just a few days before they did.
Yeah. All right. Well, then moving a whole team like that out of an office where you normally sit and you can, as you say, you look over your shoulder and you can see who's there and who's going for a coffee and stuff like that. Moving everybody out of that scenario, out of that environment, can be a little bit then tricky to keep up the good team spirit. So do you have any good advice on how to do that?
Yeah, so it's hard. So what you lose when you're sitting by yourself is that little bit of fun, or that breakout, that spontaneous breakout of conversation, or a joke, or something funny happens and you're all in the room together. How do you recreate those moments, really, those little elements of, so really over communicating is almost a good thing. So we start every day, 8:45, the whole team joins, everyone switches on their webcam. And the first thing we all do is hold up our funny mugs to see what everyone's holding. So somebody was holding one day a Glasswick, world's favorite grandma mug, or best gardener, and it just sort of brings a bit of light to, it just helps to break that element to what you're doing, like you would in the office when you come in and say, how are you? How's your evening? How's your weekend? And so 15 minutes, first thing before the day really starts, everybody's on. In fact, everybody's on well before 8:45 and are ready to go.
Yeah.
And then it goes through with what they're doing, what they've got planned, any issues, anything that's happening. And this has resulted in some cases, better, deeper conversations than you'd have in the office, where you know that they're there. So it sort of brought a bit of focus in on those. What issues are you experiencing? How do we fix those? Let's pick that up afterwards. We'll go and have a look together on it. Off we go and do it. Some of the guys always used to go and work out how they were going to have lunch together. And so they've switched to having a virtual lunch together. So they go and prepare their lunch and then sit down, switch on their webcams and have lunch together. So it would be like you and me eating our sandwich now whilst we're talking to each other. So they've recreated that same environment that they would do in the office, where they'd go and sit in a meeting room and go and have lunch virtually. And so I think they miss that, I think, that camaraderie of being together. And so they've brought that together.
Adding that social dimension to the to the virtual environment, instead of it's only business. We log on, and then when we switch on Teams or we get in contact with a colleague, it's always about something business related. You've added the dimension of that social. That social thing should also be included in that environment. So
we switch on the webcams always, so that you can talk and you see the person. One very interesting happened. Where are we at? On a demo we were doing yesterday, which was quite a long demo. So we've not met this client before, first demo. And so instantly we've lost that initial handshake and that face-to-face interaction. And so what we did, and I think it worked really well, was we said we agreed it between us before we joined the call, that we'll tell the client we're going to switch on the webcams, and they should too, for the first 10 minutes. And then as we go into presentation mode, we'll turn them off. So that the bandwidth isn't lost and the quality of any sound or any issues are maintained. You don't need a very small screen whilst you're looking at a big PowerPoint or the product demo. So we did it at the start, then switched it off, and then we switched it on again at the end to finish the call with. And so there was that face-to-face, and then the product focus, and then back to face-to-face, and it really worked well. So there's a really good way of doing that. There's a lot of issues around bandwidth and video chewing up too much. So this worked very well, where there wasn't any degradation of quality or delivery. And that was one really good tip to do. I think you can do that without switching on. So
getting those into the daily routines that you
yeah,
get into the habit of doing that. So
yeah.
would that be is there anything else that you would say this is my number one advice for any other partner that are in these situations these days?
Ask your team if there are any issues, even if they're trivial. Even if they're very trivial, just ask them what the issues are and help them to come over them. So there'll be little things today that you just do not get when you're in the office. You don't get when you get out. I've already had an email from one of the team saying they're finding it very hard to stay at home and be at home all the time and want to come out and go to the office. They miss the office experience. And so they said, I might go in on Friday, but realistically, it's how do you ask and make sure you ask your team every day if they're okay. This is just the first few days of what I think will be quite a few weeks. And so it's really important that as a team, as a leader of a team, you can help your team beyond just let's have a talk or let's talk about what we're doing at lunch with. What else is happening? Are you okay? Can you get out? Can you go and do some exercise at lunchtime? Can you walk somewhere? What do you do to replace that daily movement that you would normally do in going to and from the office?
It might take a little bit more of an effort, you say, for getting that, because when you're together, it's something else.
Yeah, and the question is beyond just what problems are you having with work, what are the client issues, what are the delivery issues, what other issues do you have? Are there any things happening at home? Are you able to get out and do something? And then we also finish every day with a call with what happened, were there any issues? Okay. So again, another 15-minute at the end of the day where everyone joins and does the same thing again. And it's really just seeing everybody again face to face is the key part with what's going on, what you're working on, how did that go? This is what I did. This is what I didn't get done today. I'll make that a higher priority tomorrow. So it was exactly that piece. Yeah.
Great. All right. Thank you very much, Haseet. That was interesting. I think we're going to see a lot of great stories coming out of the community, sharing in the community here. So thank you for being the first one here.
Thank you very much. I look forward to others sharing their tips too. And whatever we can do as a community to help our clients, I think it's a really important time to do that with as well.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you very much.
Thank you.